This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, episode 298, Inside Out 2. Welcome back, Anxiety. Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode.
Hey there, Animation Addicts. I'm Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
And we are back. Now, I know we said that we were going to do Winnie the Pooh, the 2011 movie that killed hand-drawn animation for Disney. You're just going to have to wait a little bit longer for that because guess what? Chelsea's back.
Hey!
And so we actually have some new movies that we want to slot into the episode lineup a bit earlier. So stay tuned for that. But Chelsea, welcome back.
Hey, thanks. The crowd probably don't know that I was even gone because we have been batching some of these episodes in order to let them out. However, I was a little behind, and so I missed 2 weeks of uploading and doing stuff. So I'm sorry to all the fans. We have episodes; they're coming, and I will be a lot better here going forward.
Once she gets over that jet lag.
Yeah, right. I was in Europe for the last month, and so I started out in Germany, and then I went to Paris and then London and then came home just a couple days ago. And yes, jet lag is still in full swing and it is a thing.
You got to ground, Chelsea. Take those shoes off, get in the grass, wiggle those toes. They say grounding in water so you can go visit the lake.
Okay.
It resets the body. It helps the circadian rhythm get back. So that's Morgan's crunchy moment for the episode.
Thank you.
Yes. How to overcome grounding, according to Dr. Paul on Instagram.
How to overcome jet lag, not grounding.
Oh, how to overcome, yes, jet lag.
Well, I'm excited to talk about this episode today because honestly, we said welcome back to Anxiety because we were very anxious about this movie coming into it.
Mm-hmm.
Very anxious.
Yes, this episode, we are going to be talking about Pixar's Inside Out 2.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Riley, how was camp? It was good.
She goes away for 3 days and all we get is good?
She goes away for 3 days and all we get is good?
Yeah, sounds right.
Ask and answer.
Yeah. Back to the game.
Riley is officially a teenager now. You aren't packed yet?
I'm the worst!
Overreact much?
I barely touched it.
Let the professional handle this.
I'm too gross to go anywhere ever again! Well, that's a preview of the next 10 years.
This June.
I'm anxiety. I am just such a huge fan of yours. We're Riley's new emotions. Wow!
Remember when we all finally came up to headquarters?
Nostalgia.
That was like 30 seconds ago, nostalgia. Yeah, those were the days.
The Feel Everything movie.
Pillow fight!
Bring it on!
No, anger.
Arrives in cinemas.
Ow! Ooh, walkie-talkies. Check, check, check. Can you hear me? I gotta press the button. Go for Joy. Copy that. Over. Oh, I love him. Just don't look down and keep moving. She'll be okay, right?
50-50. Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
There's a part 2? We're going!
Only in cinemas. Tickets available now.
You know, Pixar really has needed a fantastic film for a long time. We have struggled. We've been on the struggle bus ever since the pandemic. For example, we had Onward, which really just got the shaft, unfortunately. And then all of the other movies thereafter were just not hitting the stride that they needed to in order to really, get up to standard. And I don't know about you, Morgan, but I think they might have at least come back up to the standard on this one.
Yes. Yeah. Like you, I was a little nervous just because the past few Pixar films have been flops, and there's some that I particularly did not enjoy. And so I had no joy, if you will. So I don't know. My kids were really excited for this one, and I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know about that. And I just didn't have that excitement for this film because I don't think Pixar's the same, or at least they haven't proven, their recent track record hasn't proven that they're really kind of the same studio. And so I can't say up front, those concerns, they're washed away. So we will have a very good discussion about this film. Chelsea and I just got out of the screening a few hours ago, or like an hour ago, to be honest. Yeah. And drove home and are now recording. So this is fresh from the theater, and we're excited to talk to you about it. So, but first, let's give some basic information. Now, the movie isn't even out yet, but by the time you get this episode, it will be out, but we don't have box office information. Obviously, the studio is Pixar Animation Studios, distributed by Walt Disney Studios. Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, excuse me. Release date, June 14th, 2024. Budget, we got your typical Pixar budget, $200 million, so they say, right? And the director is Kelsey Mann. Now, Kelsey Mann joined Pixar in 2013 and was a storyboard artist. And he worked with Monsters University, The Good Dinosaur, which he co-wrote, and Onward. He also directed the Monsters University short Pixar or Party Central. So he's been around for over a decade, and now he's working in this director capacity. And the reason is because the original director of Inside Out, Pete Docter, he's now the chief creative officer of the studio. And so he's kind of taking on more executive producer roles. And so he was bumped, or he was the executive producer for this one. And there you go. So that is why we got who we got. So even before we get started, there was a little bit of drama that happened with this as far as the cast. And I don't know if you noticed, Chelsea, but 2 of the main actors were replaced.
Oh, I noticed.
You did? Oh, you did? Okay. Which ones then?
Fear used to be Bill Hader.
Yes.
And he is a very distinct voice, but also they brought in Tony Hale, and he is also a very distinct voice. And so I was really having a hard time with Fear the entire time, not because the character was different, because the character really, didn't change much. And it's kind of an auxiliary character anyway, but the actors that have played this is like, I cannot think of anything other than Buster Bluth.
Yes.
When I'm watching this. Our Arrested Development phase is like, Lucille. Honestly, that's what that was really what was going through my head.
Yes.
So that was the one. And then Mindy Kaling was out of this one and was replaced by Liza Lapria. And I didn't notice that one.
Lapira.
Sorry, Mindy.
Yeah. Filipino-American actress who's been in a variety of things. But yeah, it's interesting because you have these already established characters with very distinct voices. So instead of Mindy Kaling, they bring on this other girl. I think she did fine. She was disgusting enough, if you will, as far as getting, that Valley girl sort of voice. But at a certain point, the reason they weren't hired on is because of pay disputes, obviously. And so it's showing that Amy Poehler was a $5 million with very lucrative bonuses, because she really is kind of the main star.
Yeah, yes,
even more so than Riley, I'd say, in a weird way. And then obviously Sadness and Anger, they agreed on, but for some reason these two it was not going to work for them. They put their foot down, and at that point, why don't you just hire a voice actor, like a seasoned voice actor who can replicate the voice of that original person? Like, why go for the celebrity? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's a club and we ain't in it. So there you go.
Okay, well, thanks so much. So in this movie, let's kick it off. So in this movie, we have aged Riley up 2 years, which I appreciate, because it wasn't so jarring of a change where it's like, wow, she's a totally different person. And, she was 11, which is this cute preteen era in the first. In the first movie, we get a lot of still this like joy of childhood moments, being, cute and silly and whatnot. And then this one, it's, navigating the dangerous waters of puberty and becoming a teenager. So she's a teenager now and hits puberty, which we'll talk about, how they handle all that, but it causes a lot of changes in her. And as a result, these new emotions come and enter Riley headquarters. And one of these is anxiety. So we have anxiety, envy, ennui, and embarrassment. And so it's interesting. So, and they end up causing a lot of trouble. And then there's drama that happens as a result of all these new emotions inside the body. And then, they have to figure it all out. So, and then there's also obviously the plot where Riley, has a championship for her hockey team. They win. She and her 2 best friends, we're going to be BFFs forever. And then they get invited to this exclusive camp for the high school by the high school coach, the 3 of them. So they go to this 3-day, skills camp. And in the car ride there, the 2 friends let her know that, hey, the boundaries changed for school and we're actually going to a different school now. And that really creates a lot of issues inside her. It's quite a change, right? Turmoil. Yeah. This inner turmoil and sadness and all these emotions. And then on top of that, there's this girl that she idolizes named Val. Valentina is her name, but they call her Val. And she's kind of, I'm not sure if she was a senior. I mean, they might have said, but she's kind of
she was a captain of the team.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what, grade she's in, but she's been on the team for a while. Yeah. And, she's and Riley's going into 9th grade. So she will be an incoming freshman. And so this is like her chance to really like make an impact and show the coach that she's great. Right. Maybe she'll make the varsity team, based on this performance there. But really it's okay. My friends are gone. So I need to navigate the waters of I need new friends.
Yes.
And so it creates a lot of drama as she's abandoning the old friends for the new friends and the cool girl and all the stickiness that comes with all of that.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that the idea of coming into a new phase of life or a new just location, like all these things for her. And it just reminds me of when I first moved to Nashville and I was talking to another girl who had just moved, and she's like, yeah, it's really easy to make friends at the very beginning because when everybody is saying make friends or die, that's what you do. And so this is kind of where she's coming into. She's seeing that she can't keep her old friends. So she is make friends or die. And that's basically where your head is.
Yeah. I really liked the plot. I liked all of this. It was a really good setup to have this 3-day thing where it gave us a very clear end. It wasn't this ongoing thing. So there was no real, montage of them over the summer and working.
Right. And you also didn't have to bring in the parents for all of the things.
Yeah. The parents were isolated over there, they're at the very beginning, they're at the end. And with the new emotions, it gives us a lot of time with them. So I can't explain it, but it's kind of complicated. But before I kind of get into those new emotions. So in the original Inside Out, they did all this, research into the mind. And there was this very famous psychologist who developed, the study that there's 27 emotions. I want to read you these 27 emotions. So these were initially considered for the first film, obviously, because, while in our minds now, having seen this movie and seen the original one, you think, they're like, you have these core emotions, but it's really not that way. They have so many different emotions and, certain ones don't necessarily trump the others, but I'm going to read you through them. The 27 emotions are admiration, adoration, aesthetic appreciation, amusement, anger, anxiety, awe, awkwardness, boredom, which we now in this movie, ennui, which is ENNUY. So that's actually a French word. And that is why the character, I'm assuming, is voiced by French.
And she was very French.
We'll talk about that. Put a pin in that. Calmness, confusion, craving, disgust, empathetic pain, entrancement, excitement, fear, horror, interest, joy, nostalgia, relief, romance, sadness, satisfaction, sexual desire, and surprise.
Okay.
And so in this one, it's 27 emotions, way too much. And obviously some we don't want to hit. I'm looking at you, sexual desire. It might not be one that we really want to dive too much into for a Pixar movie.
A kid's movie, yeah.
So when they were initially making this, there were 10 emotions compared to the 9 that we have now, right? Because and one of the ones that was cut was shame. And I thought that was just really interesting that shame was actually not on the list of the 27 emotions, but it's one that they really were interested in capturing. And shame is an interesting concept.
They've all been listening to Brené Brown. So but we want her to come and talk to us.
Yeah. It basically is. They're like, how can we get her how can we get Pixar to pay for this as a research trip?
Exactly.
And shame is kind of interesting to me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but there's like the difference between shame and guilt, where guilt is where you feel bad for something that you've done wrong. And shame is just this sense that you are a bad person. It's more of an identity, if you will, maybe related to a variety of things that you've done or won or whatnot. But it's just like, it's like this, this emotion that's more lingering, if you will, this sense of shame that. Whereas guilt, you have guilt for things that you have done wrong because it motivates you to change and to be better. And shame, if you have shame, I mean, that's something you got to work on, because shame you shouldn't have, right?
Well, I think that they just decided to take shame out and just say, we'll just add embarrassment, because that kind of covers it. Not entirely.
Just like combine her with embarrassment.
Yeah. And
yes, for sure.
And so it was, less characters always better.
This is a family children's movie at the end of the day.
And as a kid, you may not be able to differentiate between embarrassment and shame. And so I feel like that was easier to let's just put it over here. And then you also aren't dealing with the negative side of having to explain shame and the differences of it all. And so I'm glad that they took it out. I feel like all of the emotions were good. The envy, I felt like she was less needed.
Envy was a total miss for me.
Yeah. The boredom, ennui, I was just like, yes, this is like literally all of my nieces and nephews at this age. It's like, oh my gosh.
The one thing I didn't like about ennui was that she had the phone. I'm like,
right,
no, but that's the phone in your hand the whole time. I know that's where we are at in 2024, but it just kind of like felt semi-dated to me. I don't know. People will probably still have phones 20, 30 years from now, but like at the very end, when she gets the roster for the final team for high school, it's like, oh, she's going to post it online. And I'm like, there's so much drama in like where they would post it outside the locker room and everyone would huddle around and versus like sent you a text, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Envy was just kind of like a nothing burger for me because envy is a very difficult concept. I think.
Yes.
I think it could have been simplified. It is like envy is just like a super negative connotation to me where it's just like you're envious of everything. And I don't think that her actions and the way that she was reacting was very envious of anything. She wasn't like, well, she was like, oh my gosh, I love your hair. That was like the only one that I can remember.
Yeah.
You know, there should have, if they were going to have her, they needed more like, oh my gosh, she's such a good skater. I wish I could skate. Or, oh, those are the new skates. I want those skates, right? Like envy is like, you have something that I want and I'm going to take it. Yeah. And they didn't play that up. It was just more like, oh, that's, you know, that's cool. It was more just like appreciation, I guess.
Yeah. And
which is this aesthetic appreciation. But awe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just felt like no matter what her actual emotion that they were going to put with her, it just didn't do anything. And she wasn't needed. I felt like the anxiety and boredom and the embarrassment are much more universal for the teenage grouping.
Yeah, and they were clear cut. It was obvious. Embarrassment was so obvious with the red cheeks, and we all like that's such a universal thing that it's obvious just without even speaking what it is.
Right.
With ennui, I thought it was interesting that it was a French. So instead of boredom, which would have made more sense than this French word that is kind of hard to say, you know, unless you say it a million times and you get the hang of it. I think they just really wanted a French. They liked the way the word sounded
and the aesthetic,
and they just and the aesthetic, and they just wanted a French actor. But that's fine if she had French parents. Like this is in her head. Why would she have this like French version of something unless she was bilingual? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's one thing that I thought. Like
that would have been.
We don't need the French here because you're not French at all, and there's been no influence for this. This is just because it's like we wanted a cool French accent.
I mean, if they were French Canadian, that would be a whole different story.
Yes. Instead of Minnesota, it should have been like Ontario. So, anyways, that's nitpicking it. So. Yeah. Let's talk about the big one, which is anxiety. And this was the one that I was concerned with going in because, you know, having kids, I unfortunately am in a situation where because of Disney Pixar's recent efforts, I feel like I have to preview some of their films to know whether it's good or not. And actually, you know, I posted that I was going to this, and I had every time I post that I'm going to like a Disney or a Pixar film or any animated film, to be honest, people say, let me know how it is. Like, is it good to take kids? Like, is there anything I need to be concerned about? And like, that's a sad state of affairs for 2024 that parents have to be concerned about the stuff that's in the movies. I think parents have always wanted to, you know, preview and make sure, but particularly now it seems that things are getting slipped in, or there's concepts that people don't want to talk about. For example, we were talking about how in this movie, they tackle the concept of puberty, but it's just the emotional side of puberty. It's not the messy side of puberty, if you will.
Right.
Is what Turning Red did. And that's what turned a lot of people off. I think, myself included. I did not show my children that because I said, this is not a conversation I want to have with my 5-year-old boy, you know, and my children. I don't believe that children need to be introduced to every single concept under the sun. And that's fine if you want to make a movie about that, but it's just a very odd choice for a Pixar film, which after its, 25-year history at that point had really established its lane. And they're veering into this other one. And so I did have a lot of people, like 10 people in my messages. Yeah. When I went back and I was looking after the movie that were like, tell me how it is. Is there anything I need to look out for? And there was nothing. But my big concern with anxiety was, and going into this movie, it was like, really, anxiety? Do I want to introduce my children to the concept of anxiety? And it's not that anxiety is like a bad thing to introduce children. It's just this like modern take of anxiety where like people are ruled by their anxiety, and anxiety is such like a buzzword. And I can just say that in the movie, it was great because anxiety was the antagonist. I can't say that anxiety was the villain, right? Really created a problem. And they made it clear that there are good emotions and bad emotions, and there are emotions that you want to stick in the corner and like really you don't want to dominate your life. In the last movie, we discussed sadness, and sadness was from Joy's perspective, a bad emotion because you should be happy all the time. However, it's a necessary emotion. Whereas I don't necessarily think anxiety is a necessary emotion in the traditional sense of worrying all the time, you know?
Yes.
So yeah.
I think for anxiety, it was, yes, the idea of like, do I want to put this boogie worm, you know, into
my kids have these ideas and now they're thinking about them and now they're.
And the more you talk, there's a lot of things that the more you talk about them, especially at the younger ages, like until they have actually felt it, then it's kind of weird. And you're just planting the seed for them to think that, oh yeah, that's what I've got, you know, as opposed to coming back and actually trying to figure it out later and then being able to be like, okay, that's what this is. A lot of times you have, and there's like a social contagion with it aspect where I guess this is what everybody gets. So this is what that is. And I'm not trying to take away the fact that it is an emotion that will hit. For me, it wasn't something that I really felt until I was like out of high school. So I had certain things like, you know, for example, every test coming up, you're going to be anxious and having a little bit of anxiety like in high school or something, or throughout your schooling degrees. Everybody has had that dream where you wake up and you're like, oh crap, I have a test. This final is today and I never studied or I never even went to class or something like that. So this is what school has done to you. But as far as like having like a panic attack or something like that, like that was never my problem. And so I just feel like don't try and throw these in there for kids to feel like they need to have this in order to be normal.
Yeah. Although, you know, panic attacks are something that's pretty common or can be. So, you know,
it's just know your kid.
Yeah, exactly. If they're going to go down this route, I really did like the panic attack scene. I thought visually the way that it was depicted inside the mind was very cool. And then obviously the outward expression of that with Riley. And she was like literally in this box containing her as she's having this. It was very, very, very well done. And I think it didn't put a lot of fear into you it just represented, this can happen where you get so overwhelmed with thinking about everything that you can't breathe and you're having a hard time. And so I thought that was really well done.
Or just fighting all of the emotions because they're just all there.
Yes.
And like trying to, you know, going back more on the negative emotions and not necessarily, but the sadness, the anger, the fear, most of those coming in there and gripping you. Generally, it's not the joy, but sometimes it is, as far as like, if you can be really happy for somebody, but also really sad for something else. For example, just off the top of my head, if you have a family member or a friend or somebody that you know that needed a heart transplant, they get a heart. It's great for them, but it's also really sad for somebody else, another family. And so there's these mixing of the emotions that is always going to be very confusing. So I mean, I really like the idea of having personified emotions. Because then it is easier for kids and for just kind of conceptualizing the idea of who's at the head and being able to say, okay, go over there now. That's your spot there.
That was great. Yeah, I do have a child who does worry in this way where he overthinks things. Well, what if this happens or what if this? And so as I was watching this, I was actually, you know, very humbled, you know, because I was so against this movie that like, oh, this actually might help him and help him understand this worry that he has that's so unnecessary. Yeah. He worries about like the dumbest stuff. And I think it's an attention thing. Yeah. But yeah, so that was interesting. So even though we have these new emotions, the main one is anxiety. We don't really focus on the other ones too much. They're really kind of background characters. And with that, also when they kind of go on this adventure, when Joy and the whole gang get kicked out of headquarters, I liked that Joy went on an adventure with the other emotions. So they kind of kick sadness back up to headquarters, because we've done the joy sadness thing before. Yeah. And it was fun to have fear, disgust, and anger tag along and get to see a little bit of more of them.
Yes.
So I thought that was a really great way to do that. You know, it's like, so, you know, with this movie, when you're thinking like, how are we going to do this movie again? There's really only so many ways you can go with these characters inside the head. You can't have them stay inside headquarters the whole time. You could, it would just be a little tricky. So, you know, they go off on another adventure and have to obtain the artifact.
Yeah. And having them separate and like these different groups, being able to compartmentalize even just the groups of characters was a lot easier for the audience to be able to like say, okay, these are the old and these are the new. And also I really appreciated that, you know, in this new stage of her life and new experiences, and she feels like she must recreate herself. And that is something that everybody has gone through, where maybe you move, or maybe you are, you know, in her case, just going up a grade, and now something else is, you just feel the need to either level up or completely change depending on where you're at. And I really liked how they're like, we're going to not talk about that right now and throw it to the back of the mind. It's like, not going to deal with you.
Yeah. They had a lot of really funny puns with, you know, like the psychological, the brain, the mind, you know, suppressed emotions, the sarcasm, the vault, you know, the sense of self. I really liked that they were able to bring even more of those in from the first movie. You know, apparently there's even more brain mind puns that we didn't know. So that was fun, and it made it hilarious. The argument over the sarcasm and how they're yelling, it just gets translated to the sarcastic. That was really funny.
That was good. I feel like
the stream of consciousness.
Yes.
Different food items flopping by.
It tastes like cardboard.
Broccoli.
And both Morgan and I are like, we like broccoli.
Broccoli's great, you know. But that's been her ongoing thing since she was a baby. That was the introduction of disgust.
That's true. So I mean, I feel like they really did a good job at taking what they already had and moving it into an area that is more universal and is not going to be any at all controversial. And it's just something that Pixar needs. I mean, they have had, let's just go through really quickly as an aside, just the list of, I would say duds. I don't think they've had a solid good movie since Coco.
For sure.
Okay, yes, Incredibles 2 made $1 bazillion, but it wasn't a good movie. Toy Story 4 made a whole bunch of money, but it wasn't a good movie. Onward did not make a lot of money because it got shafted because of the pandemic, but it wasn't bad. It
fine. It was a fine movie.
Yeah, it was fine.
It's not a Pixar classic. It's not when after you watch it, like Finding Nemo, you're just thinking about it, and it
was nice though.
So
I mean, the brother camaraderie to it was nice, and I liked it. Soul, I mean, they wanted it to be good, and it could have been good, but it just wasn't. Luca, I liked Luca. It was very sweet and nice, but it definitely isn't
forgettable.
It is forgettable, yeah. And then Turning Red, did not like. Lightyear, hated that one. Elemental, just didn't like they just so many things wrong with that one, you know. So since 2017, so this is a long time that they've made a good, solid film, and I'm really proud of them for coming up with this one, because it could have been really bad. I mean, the whole premise is just is a little bit convoluted all around, because you're dealing with emotions. You're dealing with a storyline that really has to be right for it to even make sense. And I feel like they did a good job with that. And they were able to, like, I cried multiple times at the very end for different moments. And it was just like, and not like ugly cry, but just like, oh, tear. I got it. And I liked it. And like, they can do all these good stories, but or at least, you know, it's a good premise, but they haven't really been able to get you. And Pixar is just, from the beginning, has had such a high standard, such a high bar, and they consistently hit it for a long time. And so it's, you know, to go 7 years without anything good is like, whoa, what's going on? So I'm really glad this, for the last, I think, year, I've been saying that they're going to try to give Pixar the blue sky treatment. And this one would help stop that. So
yes,
I'm glad.
Yes. The way that the characters were introduced at the very beginning was fine. I thought it was good. We get back into the hockey, we get back into her mind. Each one of the characters is reintroduced again. It kind of felt a little redundant but I felt like it was needed. They couldn't just hop back in. So we hit, here's disgust. And each one of the 5 emotions is hit in that game, which is really cool. We end on a high note with her winning the championship with her friends. And then, the parents talking with them. So that was really good. And this, with the main, the camp, like I said, I really liked that. I did think the older girl, Val, the way that happens didn't seem so fluid, I guess. The idea that this older girl would immediately welcome Riley was slightly inauthentic. I don't know. You have your friends, people are kind of established and they kind of hang out with their cliques. That would feel kind of more real to me. Just because Riley was so dorky, so lame, so weird. Yes. That I felt like it would be such a turnoff. For me, I don't know. The way that I was in high school is I didn't really hang with older girls. I was very much intimidated by older girls or old, upperclassmen. Yes. Even if they were just 1 year older. And specifically I'm not projecting to Riley, but it just reminded me I was on the basketball team and I was on the freshman team, and there was a girl who was on the varsity team, and she was so good. She was the point guard. She was just everything you think of when you think of basketball player, just phenomenal, all state every single year, played D1 afterwards, just top tier, right? Yeah. And I remember I just was I was shy in high school for people I didn't know. Yeah. I just remember walking down one of the hallways in the, where the gym was connected to the locker rooms, and it was before a game or something. And I was walking with my mom, and she was walking down, going to the locker room. And I couldn't look at her in the eye. And I was just kind of looking down, embarrassment was a thing. I couldn't function around these older girls. It was just funny to me remembering that. And my mom was like, well, that was kind of weird. She thought it was her being kind of a brat. When in reality, she wasn't watching me because she was walking next to me. I was the one who was being the weirdo and couldn't possibly make eye contact. Embarrassment was, yes, embodied me. But I don't know. Obviously, they needed to do it because the rift between the old friends and the new friends was good. It created the drama. It allowed her to kind of experience this new version of herself that was led and driven by anxiety. So that was fine. But I mean, this girl's just a super friendly girl, apparently.
Well, yeah, I have had actually experiences like that with, the older, more sophisticated, not sophisticated necessarily, but just the more, just the older groups. My brothers always had their friends over. And so I often hung out with older people. And by older, I mean 7 to 10 years older. And so
it's a big deal when you're,
it was huge when you're under 14.
Yeah. Now it's whatever. Hey,
right.
Hey,
exactly. It's oh, hey. But at that age, it was a big deal. And I also did pageants when I was young. And so there was, I specifically remember one time where I was late for a rehearsal, and I was basically just hiding, trying to figure out how to get in without making notice of myself, because I'm they're going to yell at me. Embarrassment, fear, mostly fear. And I guess anxiety as well. But there was a girl who was, at least 5 years older. She was actually one of the reigning royalty. So one of the previous winners. And she saw me and came over to me and helped me just be oh, hey, we're going over here now, kind of thing. And it was just I really appreciated that as a younger girl. And I wasn't really, I wasn't friends necessarily with her, but those little things, people would think that's even more ironic. The fact that it was at a beauty pageant that most of the nicest women and older girls and just girls all around that I've ever met have been a part of that. And so those were those were definite moments where I felt like that, where I was like, and definitely at pageants that where you like, oh my gosh, this girl is amazing. Because like there's some of these dancers that are just like blow your mind really good. And then even like some singers that I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's you. And because, so the pageant that I was in, it was basically from 4 to 14 is when I competed. And so you were with all of the age groups at varying times. And so you ended up seeing all of these people for years because many people would come back over and over. And so you got to know a lot of people. And it was very interesting to see that. And then later on, as I was older, I just remember feeling like I need to be that person too. You know, the one that helps the little person. And by little, I mean like the 5-year-olds, you know?
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that actually portrayed in this film as not being a whole group of mean girls.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I like that. Thank you for elucidating that.
You're welcome.
To me.
You're welcome.
I thought this movie was not as fun. It's not as whimsical. It's not as imaginative. She's older now. We have different problems, you know, and so some of, you know, going with Bing Bong and some of the different fun, quirky lands that they visit in the first film, you know, it doesn't make sense to revisit them. Obviously, that's not really an issue, but it was a little sad because the first one is just so fun and so hilarious. And this one wasn't. Did you feel like it was funny?
There were a couple funny lines.
There were a few moments.
It was the backpack or the belly bag. That guy,
oh my gosh,
was funny.
Okay, we need to talk about that. So that was an actually really funny moment where they go into this vault of secrets, you know, where she keeps everything locked away. And just there's these random characters. One is called Bloofy. That's basically like your typical children's TV series, sort of like a Dora the Explorer, breaking the fourth wall, talking to the character or talking to the kids in the audience, you know, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I very much felt this was inspired by where he actually is this Bloofy character, which Bloofy kind of reminds me, it's like a Blue's Clues or a Bluey in a way, but Bluey really isn't one of these characters that talks to you. It's more Dora, Blue's Clues, and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse to me.
Yes.
Or he actually is talking to the wall. And they're like, what are you talking? Who are you talking to?
What is going on?
And anyone who's ever seen one of these shows or whatnot just gets the joke. It is too funny. And then they do what was the fanny pack's name? Let's see.
Every time I think I just like the backpack. Where's the backpack? Yes. Dora the Explorer was the one that I saw more.
This one reminded me of Oh Toodles. They do the same thing where they call his name and he appears and then he has like, I have 3 items. Which one should we use to solve the puzzle? My kids love Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And so I was dying because that was very much ripped off. And that's still one of like the top shows on Disney Plus. It happens to be this, you know, 20-year-old CGI cartoon of Mickey Mouse and his friends. So funny. And then the character of Lance, which was this kind of like early 2000 console character, and he's super pixelated. And I just thought that was just funny. It was a great gag because that's what she remembers. And it just it kind of got the vibe that, you know, either she or her friends, they didn't have the newest console because supposedly this movie's set around 2017-ish. You know, and that graphics by that time were vastly improved. So I just liked, like, kind of in my head canon that, you know, her family or whoever's family like wasn't rich enough to have the newest thing. They just like inherited this from the cousins, and they bought it used, and it's just an older model playing older games from the early 2000s. And this is one of them. And then when he's walking, he walks into the wall and you have to like jump, try to navigate it because the controls are terrible.
Yes.
That was great.
Yeah. I liked that. And then you had the deep, dark secret that they
stay
brought
to the
out.
end for that one.
Yes, there you go. I really liked that they brought in nostalgia for a little bit.
Yes.
She's like, oh, and it's so beautiful. And it's like, oh, we don't need you for like at least another couple graduations, maybe a baby in the family or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll be downstairs waiting.
It's not your time yet. Yeah. Now, I thought nostalgia should have been like a young kid, because nostalgia is nostalgia for things of the past, right? So you're right. You know, when you were young and when you were growing up, you have nostalgia for those things. But I guess when you're old, you have nostalgia.
It's just saying you're old.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Like, she's super old. She's grandma.
Yes, she's a grandma. Oh, those were
great.
the days.
Oh, good times.
I felt like the implementation of these different characters and their roles, and it was just well done. They did a great job, and hats off to you guys. Story was Kelsey Mann, Meg LaFleur, and I felt like you guys did a good job. And then
she was the screenwriter on the first one,
Dave Holstein for screenplay. But yeah, I'm just looking at their thing, and I'm like, I want to say your names because you guys did a good job. Good job.
Yeah. Again, in a moment where people are not expecting the best out of Pixar.
Right.
And for this to come, it's just a breath of fresh air. I think this is going to be a huge hit. It'll be the family film of the summer, maybe, well, except for Despicable Me 4. For some reason, those just do like crazy off the charts. This one's fun. And it wasn't crazy jumping off the walls craziness. It was a lot, like we said, a little bit more serious compared to the last one, but I liked it. Like, it felt very grounded in this movie. It felt like a real movie with real situations, real emotions, and just exploring it in a really fun, unique way.
Yeah. There was one comment where she's like, I guess there's just not as much joy in this time. And it's like, aw, sad.
I was like,
I had lots of joy around then. So.
I know joy isn't just reserved for childhood. There's, the joy expands as you grow older, but it was just, that's what had to be said in that moment.
Right.
Yeah. So the previous film did $858 million. Now that was in 2015, different era, wasn't quite the 2018, 2019 box office where everything was just out of control.
Right.
So I think this movie will do really well. I think it will do over 600 million for sure. I think families are going to eat this franchise up. What we saw with Elemental last year is Elemental wasn't that great of a film, but because it was summertime and there's really not tons and tons of films coming out anymore, it just had these legs that kept going and going and going, which was interesting to me. And it actually ended up doing fairly well. And that was Elemental, which I didn't really hear people talking about. I think people just saw it because, it's Pixar and why not? And so I think
there was nothing else also. Like,
this one will do really well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think, do you think it will do over $1 billion?
No, but I think I agree that it will be probably around the 6 million or 600. Yeah. For their sake, that would basically put them at making a little bit of money. So it says that the budget is 200 million. I would say probably 100. How much do you think that they are spending on marketing with this?
100 to 150.
Okay. So that's basically half of the budget is what they put into marketing. So if, let's say that we go with that. So 300 million they have to break in order to break even. I hope that they make at least 6. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. And again, they need this win.
They need it.
Yeah. Especially after they've just fired 100, or laid off 175 people. The studio's not in the best shape that it's been in. So it's a rough time right there. So I hope this does well. And I would definitely recommend it to people. I'd recommend it to families. I'd recommend it to people who like the first one. It's a good movie. But the one thing I didn't like.
They also had John Ratzenberger in here.
I know. They finally brought him back. I mean, he's kind of been cut out recently, which I don't appreciate. Like, you cannot get rid of that's why you're stinking it up. You need your deodorant is because you've cut your Lucky Charm.
Exactly.
One thing I didn't necessarily love is some of these things seem too easy for Riley. I know she had all these issues, right? But there were no consequences for Riley. For example, sneaking into the office and reading the red book. Like, I was expecting her to be caught, and I kind of would have liked her to have gotten caught.
I wanted her to get caught.
And then as a result, she's not making the team and she has to take a year off or something and say, to the extent of, this is your punishment. I still think you're an amazing player. You are a good person, whatever, because that was her herself. But try again next year. Like, we want you, but there are consequences for doing things like this. And so she could learn a lesson from all of this terrible behavior that she had. And another thing, I mean, the other film covers this as well, but the idea that you should not let your emotions control you.
Yeah.
They try to make it seem like the emotions are control. And it's like this weird balance because your emotions don't control you. you control your emotions. And as you mature and you develop, you kind of can choose which emotions to flip on and off and to not, or suppress, if you will. But you just have control over it. If you have a very angry personality, like you can work towards not allowing that to be dominant and take over and to have more appropriate reactions. Right. So I liked that we kind of saw that like with anxiety specifically, where that type of emotion really does take over and control a person that causes them to do things that maybe would not normally be, their normal personality or behavior.
I also really liked the part where anxiety is talking to like the minions and trying to get ideas for different possible outcomes. And then you have Joy coming in there and saying, like, no, we can't let you only think about these things. We have to actually look at some of the other options and focus on some of the things that could be good, Yeah.
Anxiety's natural tendency is to look at the bad. Right. Let's look at every single bad scenario. But when you pair her with Joy, Joy also says, let's look at the positives and look on the bright side. Like if we're going to be looking ahead into the future and worrying about this, like we can't ignore the fact that things could go well. Yeah. And so I like that helped to balance out. And I don't know, the way they defeat anxiety at the end, she just kind of like rolls over and like, oh, I guess you're right. Like I shouldn't try to I shouldn't try to take over everything. Right. And then they just like shove her in the corner and she's like very submissive.
Who Riley is.
Yeah.
And she's very submissive. But the main point was when all of the emotions come together to love whoever Riley is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was nice. That was one of my tears, a single tear.
Oh, love it. Yeah. All right. So what would you rate it?
4.5 stars.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like it was a solid film. There were a lot of things that made you think that, added emotion. I couldn't give it a 5 just because, but like
it's no Beauty and the Beast.
It's not, it isn't, but it is a solid film that should give a lot of something. I hope it has a lot of legs. I hope they do really well.
Yeah. It's a worthy sequel to Inside Out.
When you do something right, I want you to do well.
Yeah.
Like when you try and help and feed me, your customer, what I want you to do well. And so I want people to know that it's like, if you've heard us over the last 6 months or so, and you're like, these girls are just so annoying because they're just so negative now. And it's like, I mean,
we don't want to be.
We don't. Like, I would much rather, go back to 2013 when everything was happy. 2012 when it was like, everything's great. But here we are, 2024, and you just got to take the year as it comes and and give success where success is due. And I feel like success is due here.
Yeah. Yeah. Inside Out is a fantastic movie. I think it's one of the tentpole Pixar movies when you're thinking of the big ones, right?
Yeah.
It stands out as one of the highlights, one of the best. And so to follow up with that with a sequel, which I'm sure, as soon as this one did nearly $1 billion, Disney came knock and say, okay, you go start thinking of ideas. That was tough, right? Because they've been wanting, for example, The Incredibles for years and years and years. And finally they ended up doing that. So you have a lot, a big hill to climb.
Yeah.
And they did such a good job. I thought, the characters they added, it wasn't too much. The ones they focused on was perfect. I really felt like I got a sense for all of these characters and how they worked. And it did feel like an evolution for Riley, that she was moving to this more advanced, mature stage of life where things are more complex. Emotions are more complex. Life is more complex, friends and dynamic, and just you're entering a different world. And that is a big time when you're moving from junior high to high school. It's a whole other arena. And I enjoyed it, and I'm happy that I enjoyed it because it's been a long time since I've been to a Pixar film and I've actually enjoyed myself. And this one, obviously, it's like I said, it's not as whimsical, it's not as fun, it's not as imaginative as the first one, but it kind of has to be. It can't be that way. And nonetheless, they still were able to pull a lot of fun moments out that made you laugh and made you smile, made you think, and I liked that a lot. So I'm going to give it 4 stars.
Awesome. Tell us what you think. You can head on over to rotoscopers.com/298.
Yeah.
Wow. We are only 2 episodes away from our big 300th episode, which means that we need your voicemails. We would love to hear from you. We are going to have a voicemail episode. We'll also include lots of, if you have questions for us or anything like that. So like, it's going to kind of be a little bit of a grab bag based on what you guys give us. So give us something good. We love to hear from you. It is our favorite thing to be able to hear from you, to see what you guys think, and to just kind of like feel out like our friends again. You know, it's like the reason why Morgan and I do this is to be with each other as friends, and also to be with all of you who have been with us for so long. Or if you just joined us, we're glad to have you, and we want you to feel like you have friends here. So thank you, and send us your voicemail. So
go to rotoscopers.com/voicemails or leave us a call at 406-646-6575. That's all we have for today. Until next time, we are the Rotoscopers. So Chelsea, what would you say is your dominant emotion?
Oh, that depends on the day. That's a dangerous thing to ask somebody.
Okay, we won't go there today. But it's just funny. In Inside Out, the dad is led by anger. The mom is led by sadness, which is shocking. And Riley is led by joy. And so I don't want to. This isn't a Dr. Phil episode. We don't need to dive into it. But ponder. What I think most people would hopefully say joy, but then maybe not.
Well, and I think it also depends on your personality too. So there's a book that I read that's called It's Just My Nature. Mm-hmm. And it's very good. I really like it. And also this is a book that I've recommended you. She did another one called The Child Whisperer, which actually talks about the personalities in children and how that kind of comes forth. And so I think that as a Riley in this case would be a type 1. She's very happy, bubbly. She jokes around. She's got ideas. That's more of the number 1. The number 2 is they fill in the gaps. They're constant. They stream forward, and they have a calmness to them. You have the type 3, which is more fire, more geared in the get going and let's get started and get things done. And then the type 4, which is more of the stone or carbon, which is more solid. She's a bit of a worrier. She's a bit of a person that kind of wants to help to edit things and fix things and delegate things. And it's very interesting. I really liked it. You should check it out.
Rotoscopers.com/Amazon to check out The Child Whisperer.
I'm really tired. I've been up literally since 4 a.m.
No Garfield. No Garfield.
Yeah, I'm not doing Garfield. Okay. I can't. I have no idea what happened. I know it ended so well. When I woke up again, she was in a chain gang or something and cleaning up off the side of the road.
Yeah, that was the second ending. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I fell asleep right at the heist, and I woke up around there. Now we both have to actually watch the full movie before we can.
I did watch the whole movie. It's gone 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, I have to watch the full movie before I can actually jump in on this conversation. But now with more product placement for sure.
That will definitely be the title. That will be the title. We're going to reuse one from the vault.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to end my recording.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag Animation Addicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.